you all doing today? Yes, hope you are all doing good. Welcome to the second term children. Let's get into the lesson. Today we are going to see the lesson People's Revolt. Okay? Yes. In this lesson we are going to see how people revolted against the British rule in India, and also we are going to know the Paleka system in Tamil Nadu. Okay? After the Battle of Plassey, the part of our country, political, social and economic level has disrupted by the British. Okay, so this led to the divesting many landlords and chieftains of their power and estates. Okay, so here naturally many of them revolted against the British. In that, the first resistance to the British was offered by Pulithevar. Okay, after Pulithevar, Palaikarar such as Kattabomman, Umathurai, Marudhu Brothers and Dheeran Chinnamalai started to protest against the British. Okay, let's see the origin of Palayam. So here the Palaikarar is nothing but he is the head of the Palayam. Okay, so Viswanath Nayak was the founding father of the Nayak kingdom at Madurai, and he introduced Paleka system in Madurai kingdom with the advice of Ariyanada Mudaliyar. Okay, so Viswanatha became the Nayak of Madurai in 1529. Okay, the whole country was divided into 72 palayams. Okay, so the whole country was divided into 72 palayams, and each one was put under a Palaikarar. Okay, so here as I said already, the Palaikarar is nothing but he is the head of the Palayam. Okay, so here the duty of Palaikaras is to collect the taxes, of which one third is given to the Nayak of Madurai. Okay, and another third for the expenditure of the army. Okay, and rest of the taxes was kept for themselves. Clear? Okay, next let's see about the early revolts of South India. During the 17th and 18th centuries, the Palaikaras plays the important role in the politics of Tamil Nadu. Okay, so each Palaikarar was a holder of a territory or palayam granted to him in return for military service and tribute. In most cases, the Palaikaras gave little attention to perform their duties and were interested in increasing their own powers. Okay, so totally 72 palayams are there, no? Among the 72 palayams, the Palaikaras are divided into two blocks, which are eastern and western blocks. So here the eastern blocks were ruled by the Nayaks and the western palayams were ruled by the Maravas. Okay, so the eastern palayams were ruled under the control of Kattabomman and the western palayams were ruled under the control of Pulithevar. Okay, so eastern palayam were ruled under by whom? Yes, Kattabomman, and western palayam were ruled under by whom? Pulithevar. Yes, so these two Palaikaras refused to pay the kisti to the English. So the early struggle between the Palaikaras and the East India Company had a strong political dynamic. By the Carnatic Treaty of 1792 consolidated the English power over the Palaikaras. Okay, so the English got the right to collect the taxes. Okay, so this results the revolt of Palaikaras. Clear? Okay, now let's see about the Maravas head, who is Pulithevar. Okay, so let's see the history of Pulithevar. Pulithevar is one of the earliest opponents of the British rule in South India. He was involved in a vendetta with the Nawab of Arcot, who was supported by the British. He was the Palaikar of the Nelkattum Seval near Tirunelveli. Okay, during his tenure, he refused to pay the tribute neither to Muhammad Ali, the Nawab of Arcot, or nor the English. Okay, further he started opposing them. The English started to attack the Pulithevar. Okay, so Pulithevar was the first Indian king to have fought and defeated the British in India. Okay, in 1759, Nelkattum Seval was attacked by the forces of Nawab of Arcot under the leadership of Yusuf Khan. Okay, Pulithevar was defeated at Anthanallur, and the Nawab's forces captured Nelkattum Seval in 1761. Clear? So Pulithevar, who lived in exile, recaptured Dilkattum Sebal in 1764, and Pulithevar escaped and died in exile without fulfilling his purpose. Now let's see about the Veerapandiya Kattabomman. Veerapandiya Kattabomman was an 18th century Telugu Palaikarar and chieftain in Tamil Nadu. They migrated to Tamil country during the 11th century. Okay, so he also refused to accept the sovereignty of the British East India Company and waged a war against them. Okay, he later became a Palaikarar during the rule of Nayaks. Okay, he was succeeded by his son Veerapandiya Kattabomman. His wife was Jakkammal and his brothers were Umathurai and Sevathaiya. Okay, now let's see Nawab of Arcot. After the decline of the Vijayanagar Empire, the Mughals established their supremacy in the south. Panchalam-Kuruchi Palayam was acted as an ally to the Nawab of Arcot. Okay, hence it is paid tribute to the Nawabs. But in 1792, the political condition has completely changed. Okay, based on the Carnatic Treaty of 1792, the company gained the right to collect taxes from Panchalam-Kuruchi. Okay, in 1798, Colin Jackson, the collector of Ramanathapuram, wrote to Kattabomman asking him to pay the tribute arrears. Okay, but Kattabomman replied that he was not in the position to remit the tribute due to the famine in the country. Okay, so Colin Jackson got angry and he decided to send an expedition to punish the Kattabomman. However, the Madras government directed the collector to summon the Palaikarar at Ramanathapuram and hold a discussion. Okay, in 1798, Kattabomman and his minister Sivasubramaniam met the collector at Ramanathapuram. Upon a verification of accounts, Colin Jackson was convinced that Kattabomman had cleared most of the arrears, leaving only 1080 pagodas as balance. Okay, during this interview, Kattabomman and his minister Sivasubramanian had to stand before the arrogant collector of 3 hours. Okay, so the collector insulted them and tried to arrest Kattabomman and his minister. Kattabomman tried to escape from his minister. Umathurai suddenly entered the fort with his men and helped to escape the Kattabomman. Okay, but unfortunately, Sivasubramaniam was taken as prisoner. After his return to Panchalam-Kuruchi, Kattabomman wrote a letter to Madras Council narrating the behavior of the collector Colin Jackson. Edward Clive, the governor of Madras Council, ordered Kattabomman to surrender. Okay, the Madras Council directed Kattabomman to appear before a committee. Meanwhile, Edward Clive dismissed the collector for his misbehavior and released Sivasubramanian. Okay, so S.R. Lessington was appointed as a collector in the place of Colin Jackson. Clear? Okay. During that time, Marudhu of Sivaganga along with neighboring Palaikaras were formed the South Indian Confederacy of Rebels against the British. This confederacy declared proclamation which came to known as Tiruchirappalli Proclamation. Kattabomman was interested in this confederacy. He tried to establish his influence over Sivagiri, who refused to join with alliance of rebels. Kattabomman advanced towards Sivagiri, but the Pulithevar of Sivagiri was tributed to the company. Okay, so the company considered the expedition of Kattabomman as a challenge of their authority. So the company ordered the army to march to Panchalam-Kuruchi. Now let's see how the Panchalam-Kuruchi falls. Major Bannerman moved his army to Panchalam-Kuruchi on 5th December. They cut off Major Bannerman his army to Panchalam-Kuruchi on 5th September. They cut off all the communications to the fort. Here, Kattabomman escaped to Pudukkottai and Kattabomman was recaptured by the king of Pudukkottai, Raghunatha Tondaiman, and he handed over to the company. Okay, even in the face of death, he didn't flinch and continued to stand by his ideals of honor, dignity, and prestige. Okay, so he even bodily argued for the right of his homeland and admonished the British for their immoral and legal occupation. Finally, on 17th October 1799, Kattabomman was hanged at the fort of Kayatha, thus it putting the end to the first ever known revolt against the empire. Now let's see about the Velu Nachiyar. Rani Velu Nachiyar was a queen of Sivaganga estate from 1780 to 1790. She was the first queen to fight against the British colonial power in India. She is known by Tamils as Veeramangai. Okay, born as princess of Ramanathapuram, she took training in handling different weapons in martial arts, horse riding, etc. etc. So, at the age of 16, she was married to King of Sivahangai, Muthu Vadunathan. Okay, after the British soldiers and son of Nawab of Arcot conquered Sivahanga and killed her husband. She fled with her daughter and lived at Virupachi under the protection of a Palekarar Gopala Nayakar near Dindigul. During this period, she organized army and employed her intelligence agents to find where the British stored their ammunition, and she recaptured Sivagangai and was again crowned as queen with the help of Marudhu Brothers. Okay, now let's see about the Marudhu Brothers. Okay, Marudhu Brothers were the son of Mukaiya Palaniyappan and Ponnathal. The Marudhu brothers, or Periya Marudhu and Chinna Marudhu, were chieftains of Sivagangai in Tamil Nadu. They were known for fighting against the East India Company. Chinna Marudhu was more popular, and he was called as Marudhu Pandian. Chinna Marudhu served under Muthu Vadiganather Periya Udayathevar 1750 to 1772 of Sivaganga. Okay. In the year of 1772, the English military of the British East India Company attacked the state at Kalayar Kovil. Okay. During the war, Raja Muthu Vadiganather lost his life in the battlefield. But the Marudhu brothers managed to escape along with the Rani Velu Nachiyar, the wife of Muthu Vadiganather, and arrived at Dindigul, which was ruled by Hyder Ali. Okay, Hyder Ali supported them in all respects. Okay, the Nawab of Arcot, the alliance partner of British East India Company, was not able to collect any taxes from the people of Sivaganga state for 8 long years. Okay, he entered into an agreement whereby the rules of Sivaganga as restored to Rani Velu Nachiyar after the collected his duties. After the execution of Kattabomman in 17th October 1799 at Kattayar, Chinna Marudhu gave protection to Kattabomman brother Umadurai, but the British took this reason to invade and attack Sivaganga in 1801 with a powerful army. The Marudhu Pandiyas and their allies were quite successful and captured 3 districts from the British. The British considered it as such a serious threat to their future in India that they rushed additional troops from Britain to put down the Marudhu Pandian rebellion. Okay, now let's see the South Indian rebellion, which has happened on 1800 to 1801. Okay, in February 1801. The brothers of Kattabomman, Umadurai and Sevataya escaped from Chinna Marudhu took them to his capital Siruvayal, and they started to reconstruct their fort at Panchalankuruchi. The English demanded Marudhu Pandiyas to hand over the persons who escaped from their the Palekarar war assumed a much broader character than its predecessor. So, it was directed by the confederacy consisting of Marudhu Pandiyar or Sivagangai. So here the English declared a war against the confederacy. Let's see the Tiruchirappalli proclamation which was happened in 1801. The Marudhu Pandyas issued a proclamation of independence called Tiruchirappalli Proclamation in June 1801. The proclamation of 1801 was the first call to the Indians to unite against the British. Okay. A copy of the proclamation was pasted on the wall of Nawab Palace in the fort of Trichy, and another copy was placed on the walls of the Vaishnava temple at Srirangam. Thus, Marudhu Brothers spread the spirit of opposition against the English everywhere. As a result, many Palaykarars of Tamil Nadu fight against the English. Okay. In May 1801, English attacked the rebels in Tanjavur and Trichy areas. The rebels went to Piranmalai and Kaliyakovil. They were again defeated by the forces of the English. The Marudhu brothers were executed in the fort of Tirupattur in Ramanathapuram district on 24th October 1801. Umathurai and Sabataya was captured and beheaded at Panchalam on 16th November 1801. Thus, the South Indian Rebellion is a landmark in the history of 1800 to 1801 was to be categorized in the British records as the Second Palaykarar War. Okay. Under the terms of the Carnatic Treaty on 31st July 1801, the British assumed direct control over Tamil Nadu. The Palaykarar system was abolished. Okay. The Marudhu Pandyars and many of their family members were captured, and they were famously hanged on the month of October 24, 1801. Now, let's see about Dheeran Chinnamalai. Dheeran Chinnamalai was a Kongu chieftain and Palaykarar from Tamil Nadu who rose up in the revolt against the British East India Company in the Kongu Nadu, southern India. Okay, he was born in Palayam near Erode in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, and his original name was Tiragiri. Okay, so the Kongu country comprising Salem, Coimbatore, Karur and Dindigul formed a part of Naya kingdom of Madurai but had been annexed by the Wadiyas of Mysore. After the fall of the Wadiyas, these territories along with Mysore were controlled by the Mysore Sultans. After the third and fourth Mysore wars, the entire Kongu region passed in the hands of English. Dheeran Chinnamalai is one of the main leaders in the Palaykarar wars and commanded a vast army made up of Kongu youths, notably during the Second Palaykarar War that took place in 1801 to 1802. Okay, 1,000-strong Kongu army under him took French military training in modern warfare alongside Mysore forces to fight against the British East India Company and got victories against the British. Okay, after Tipu Sultan's death, Chinnamalai settled down at Udayanelli and constructed a fort there to continue his struggle against the British. Okay, Dheeran Chinnamalai was hanged by the British in the year 1799 in Panchalam, which is located in the district of Tirunelveli.
The South Indian Rebellion, 1800 to 1801. In this module, you will learn about the South Indian Rebellion and the role of the Marudhu brothers as the heroes of the rebellion. The South Indian Rebellion was the outburst of the accumulated hatred and anger of the masses towards the East India Company. The company interfered in the matters of local principalities, thus reducing the power and prestige of the local rulers. The princes and the polygars lost their dignity and respectable status in society. Oppressive administrative policies, ruthless methods of tax collection, and the superiority complex of the British severely affected the people. By following the mercantile policy of gain, the British increased the taxes and collected it in a high-handed manner. Kattabomman was hanged and his relatives were severely punished. All these factors made the rebellion inevitable. The Marudhu brothers were amongst the main heroes of the South Indian Rebellion. They served loyally under the leadership of Muthu Vadukanath Deva of Sivaganga. On Kattabomman's death, they provided protection to his brother, Umathurai, and others. This was not appreciated by the merchants of Sivaganga. Anticipating a struggle, the brothers prepared themselves to face any attack from the British. This greatly alarmed the British, who sent their force under Colonel Agnew to fight against the Marudhu brothers. Realizing the severity of the situation, the brothers issued a proclamation asking Indians to unite with the British. A copy of this proclamation was pasted on the walls of the gateway of the Nawab's palace in the fort at Trichy. Another copy was pasted on the walls of the great Vaishnava temple at Sri Rangam, where they invited all people to join in the struggle against the British. The conflict with the British started on May 29, 1801. In this, the rebels were defeated at various places, and Dindigul, Madurai, and Ramnad came under the control of the British. The Marudhu brothers went into hiding in the Singam Puneri forest. However, Thondaiman of Pudukkottai captured them and handed them over to the British. The Marudhu brothers were hanged on October 24, 1801 AD, and Umathurai was impaled at Panchalan, Kurichi on 16 November 1801 AD. This brought the South Indian Rebellion to an end.
Now, let's see Vellore Revolt, which has happened on 1806. Okay. The revolt which took place in South Indian city of Vellore. The family were imprisoned at Vellore Fort after the Fourth Mysore War. Some 3,000 ex-servants and soldiers of Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan had also been moved to the Vellore and their property in Mysore confiscated. It was quite natural that they were all unhappy and they hated the English. Okay, so the Vellore Fort consisted of a large majority of Indian troops. A good part of it recently been raised in Tirunelveli after the Palayam uprising of 1800. Many of the trained soldiers of the various Palayams were admitted into the English army. Thus, the Vellore Fort became the meeting ground to the rebel forces of South India. Now, let's see the causes for this revolt. Okay, the causes of the revolts are the strict discipline, new weapons, new methods, and uniforms were all new to the Sipais. The Sipais were asked to save the beard and to trim. Okay. The wearing of religious mark on the forehead and use of earrings were also banned. The English treated the Indian Sipais as their inferior. There was the racial prejudice. Okay. Now let's see the course of the revolt. The Indian soldiers were waiting for an opportunity to attack English officers. Tipu Sultan family also took part in this. Okay. On July 10th, in the early morning, the native Sipais of the 1st and 23rd regiments started the revolt. Okay. The British flag in the fort was brought down. The tiger-striped flag of Tipu Sultan was hoisted on the revolt of Vellore. Okay. Major courts who was outside the fort and they informed to Colonel Gillespie. Colonel Gillespie reached Vellore fort and he made an attack on the rebel force. The revolt was completely suppressed and failed. It was one of the significant events in the history of Tamil Nadu. Clear? Okay. Now, let's see a few effects of the Vellore Revolt. Okay. The new methods and uniform regulations were withdrawn. That is the first effect. And the family of Tipu Sultan as a precautionary measure was sent to Calcutta. William Cavendish Bentinck was removed from his services. So these are the effects of Vellore Revolt. Now let's see the causes for the failure of the revolt. Okay, in this revolt there was no proper leadership to guide the soldiers properly. The first, and the second one is the rebellion was not well organized. Okay, so these are the causes for the failure of this revolt. Okay, now let's move on to the next revolt, the revolt of 1857. The Indian rebellion of 1857 was a major but ultimately unsuccessful uprising in India in 1857 to 1858 against the rule of the British East India Company. The rebellion began on 10th May 1857 in the form of a mutiny of Sipais of the company army. Okay. The revolt of 1857 was a product of the character and the policy of colonial rule. Now, let's see the causes of this revolt. The most important cause of revolt 1857 was a popular discontent of the British policy of economically exploiting India. This hurts all the sections of society. The peasants suffered due to high revenue demands and the strict revenue collection policy. Okay, and the religious and social causes. This discrimination was believed to be a major reason for the revolt of 1857, wherein Indians were exploited and were kept away from mixing with Europeans. Okay, the Indian sepoys were looked upon as inferior beings and treated with contempt by the British officers. They were paid much less than the British soldiers. Okay, so these are the causes of revolt of 1857. So these are the causes of revolt. Next, the immediate cause was the introduction of new Enfield rifles in the army, and the cartridges were greased by the fat of pig and cow. The Indian sepoys believed that the British were deliberately attempting to spoil the religion of both the Hindus and Muslims, because while the Hindus revered the cow and Muslims hated to the pig. Okay, thus the primary and the immediate cause of the revolt was the use of the greased cartridges. Okay, now let's see the outbreak of this revolt. On 29 March 1857, at Barakpur, a young Sipai from Bengal regiment refused to use the greased cartridge. He was arrested, tried and executed. When this news spread, many Sepoys. Now let's see the cause of the revolt. At Meerut in May 1857, 85 Sepoys of the 3rd Cavalry were sentenced to long terms of imprisonment for refusing to use the greased cartridges. Okay, therefore in 10th May, the Sepoys broke in own rebellion, shot their officers. Therefore, in 10th May, the Sepoys broke down their own rebellion, shot their officers, released their fellow Sepoys and headed towards Delhi. Next morning, the rebellion's army reached Delhi. The city of Delhi fell into the hands of the rebellion soldiers on 12th May 1957. The revolt spread quickly. They were mutinous at Lucknow, Kanpur, Jhansi, Bihar and many other places in North India. Many of them found that it was a good opportunity to burn the papers of their landlords. Now, let's see who suppressed this revolt. Lord Canning, the general governor, took immediate step to suppress the revolt. Who's that? Lord Canning, the general governor. Okay. He collected the forces of Madras, Bombay, Sri Lanka and Burma on his own initiative, and he called the British army debuted to China by Britain to Calcutta. Okay, here the British regained their lost positions very soon. Okay, so here the Delhi was recaptured by General John Nicholson on 20th December 1857. Now, let's see the few causes for the failure of the revolt. Okay, so the first thing is localized and poorly organized revolt. Okay, and the next one is the revolt without a clear leader, and the third one is, and there is a no mass support. Okay, and lack of common ideals among the sepoys, no support of ruling princes, and one more thing, no participation of Bengal, Bombay, Madras and West Punjab and Rajputna. Okay, another thing is the British had better weapons, better generals and good organization. Okay, clear? This is why the failure has happened in this revolt. Okay, let's see the consequences of the revolt. India came under British Crown Company's rule ended. New structure of government of India. Third one, reconstruction of the Indian army, and it increased in racial animosity between British and the Indians. Okay, and the Indian army was thoroughly reorganized. More Britishers were employed in this army. In fact, the revolt of 1857 played an important role in bringing the Indian people together and imparting consciousness of belonging to one country. It was at the beginning of the 20th century that the 1857 revolt came to be interrupted as planned war of national independence. Hope you are clear about this people's revolt. Thank you, children. Let's meet in the next class.